Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles, and welcome to my Black Christmas romance vlog. Now, I'm starting this early. It's August. And the reason that I'm doing it so early is because I want to get it done and get it uploaded and ready for actual Christmas time. Now, I have been auto-approved in NetGalley for ARCs through Black Odyssey Media, which is a Black woman-owned company that, you guessed it, supports Black authors and from all genres. So they have a long list of authors underneath them. I primarily have been reading romances. I found out about Black Odyssey Media after reading from author L.R. Jackson. She released her book, The Accidental Queen, a few years ago. It's one of my favorites. I love it. This one right here, I rated it 5 stars. This is getting a sequel, and she knows that I love this. I started interacting with her first through TikTok when I commented on one of her TikToks promoting this book, and she was like, let me send you a copy. And I was like, yes, please. She sent it, I loved it, and then she let me know when she had an arc for a new release called Tainted Liberties that I read earlier this year. That one is her only non-romance, and it is pretty heavy-hitting. It really deals with racism and misogyny and a bunch of other topics. This is getting a sequel though that comes out in 2025, so I'm really excited about that. But that is how I found out that Black Odyssey Media existed. When I was approved for Tainted Liberties, I became auto-approved for all of their arcs. So in this particular vlog, I'm going to be reading 3 Christmas arcs from them, and I'm really excited about it because I don't really know if I'm a holiday romance person, but we're gonna find out. Did I choose all 3 of these books strictly based on the cover? Yes. Did I read the synopsis for any of them? No. Am I going to? Probably not. They're all new to me authors as well, so hopefully I enjoy them all, and if I do, I can start looking into their other work. So I'm going to be reading one of the arcs this month and then 2 in September. The first one that I'm going to be reading is called Second Chance Christmas. I can only assume that it'll be a second chance romance. Do I know anything other than that? No. Am I going to look it up? Also no. So this might be a little chaotic. It is what it is. You're just gonna come along for the ride with me. I know you are, because my vlogs tend to be pretty long and y'all seem to like that. For the vlogs, sure, but regular videos, y'all still getting 10 minutes or less, okay? So take what you can get. But I am excited to start this vlog. I'm excited to read these books. I'm excited to try some new authors, and hopefully I enjoy all of these. I'm really excited to talk about them and share them with y'all, and hopefully get more romance authors under my belt, because I can never have too many. I'm gonna start reading, and I will update y'all when I figure out what's going on in this book. Good morning. So I'm currently 48% into second chance romance. What I've gathered, this is about a woman named Faith. She is a year divorced. She has 2 8-year-old twin daughters, and she grew up in a small town that she left due to a tragic event, and she ends up finding herself back there 15 years later after she was so certain that she would never go back to that place. And so she ends up running into her high school boyfriend. There were certain circumstances surrounding their breakup that made it a little complicated, and I was worried about how that was going to play out when they reconnected, but so far it looks like it's gonna go well, and so I do feel like I do want them to get back together. At the part where I'm at now, we're just now getting to that part where they're starting to reconnect, and they haven't yet had the conversation that they need to have about like why they broke up and what happened, and sort out those feelings before moving forward. And so I'm hoping that they do that sooner rather than later, because that is one of my biggest pet peeves, is like there's a huge elephant in the room and y'all just keep pretending it's not there. That irritates the hell out of me, so I'm hoping they don't do that. Otherwise though, I do want to caution on some content warnings for this book, because they start in the prologue, so it happens pretty early on. But death of a sibling, death of a parent with cancer, and then we do in the present day see on page one of them caring for a loved one with dementia. So if those are things that you're sensitive to, I don't think I'd recommend this book for you. Otherwise, I am having a good time so far, with the exception of the fact that there are some tropes that I dislike. Y'all know how I feel about tropes, but just the way the characters think about certain things, and like I totally understand that sometimes you have this vision of your life and it doesn't necessarily go according to plan, and you start feeling like maybe you didn't do something right. And I get it, but at the same time, like, life be lifing, and you can't always control that. So it be like that sometimes, you know? And I just want our characters to like give themselves more grace, I guess. But otherwise, I'm enjoying it. So we've gotten 3 POVs so far. We've gotten Faith, our main character, Rome, her ex-boyfriend, but we also got 1 chapter so far from her ex-husband, and I just feel like it was not necessary. I do not like this man. I don't want to be in his head. So I'm hoping that was the only one. Well, if it was the only one, then I'm probably gonna be irritated by that too, but like, I just don't want to be in that man's head. But so far it's going well. The rating that I give it is definitely gonna be dependent on how it ends, because obviously, like, returning to a small town, runs into a high school boyfriend, you kind of know where it's going. But like, things that I'm always thinking about when I'm reading a romance: is there gonna be a third act breakup? Is there gonna be miscommunication? Is an ex gonna get in the way? Like, you know what I mean? So we'll see how it all plans out, but that's where I'm at right now, and so far so good. I'm getting ready to make breakfast, but I did finish Second Chance Christmas last night. And a few things that I want to talk about. First, another content warning. There is mention of rape that happens in the past, and I was able to see that that was the direction that we were going in. So you'll probably be able to see when it's coming. You'll also know when that conversation is happening if you just want to skip to the end of that chapter. So just another thing to be aware of. I think I'm gonna rate it 3.25 stars. It was fine. However, I don't understand why we got the ex-husband's POV. He only has like 3 chapters, but literally it did not add any value to the story aside from reaffirming that he's a piece of shit. Because while we're in his head, he's sitting there complaining about things that Faith has done, but he'll sit there and try to make himself the victim and be like, oh, well, why would she do this? And, you know, blah, 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 how this impacts me. And then he's like, oh, but she's right. And it's like, what are you not getting? Like, you were the problem in your marriage. You're mad that she's happy now. You're mad that your daughters aren't upset that their mother has a boyfriend. Meanwhile, your daughters don't like your girlfriend because the girlfriend's made it clear that she doesn't like them, 1. And 2, you've been ignoring them to spend time with her. So yeah, they're upset about that. It's a completely different situation with Faith and Rome. So obviously they don't have any complaints. It's just stupid shit that if in real life, I would not be able to tolerate. And so seeing it in a book, it just irritates me more. I did like the relationship between Faith and Rome though. I like that they had the conversation that they needed to have to address their past in order to move forward. I liked all of that. And I was able to predict how it was going to end because it was the way that made the most sense, but it was also one that worked out for everyone, where the female main character wasn't just like making a huge sacrifice for other people. So I appreciated that. But there were still some other things that I didn't necessarily love. I also found the dialogue, like during sex scenes, a little cringe, which is pretty common for me, so take that with a grain of salt. But it was just okay. It wasn't like my new favorite or anything like that, but I am glad that I read it. There also wasn't like a ton of Christmassy vibes because they're on the coast, and so it's not like there's snow or anything. So if you're looking for that like snowy Christmas feel, you're not gonna get that from this. Aside from the content warnings though, I would still recommend it if you enjoy second chance romances. I do think that for a second chance romance, it was well done with handling the issues of getting back together, other relationships, past relationships, and children. So I will give it credit for that. So I do have another arc that I need to read that is not going to be a part of this vlog. And I have some stuff that I need to read on KU since my entire TBR is pretty much digital and audio this month. But when I do get to the other 2 books, I will give y'all an update. Hello, it is now September and I started Christmas in Spite of You. I started it last night and I'm not really sure how I'm feeling. We're following Noelle, who is waiting to hear back from an offer. What I believe has happened is that she started her own business and she's trying to solidify a deal with a client, and they're kind of putting it off. Basically like, we'll get back to you after the holidays, and she was like really depending on this deal. And so she was supposed to go home for Christmas to visit her family. She ends up not going. She gets sick and she can't really afford the flight or whatever. But while she was planning to go, she listed her home on this site. It's called Shared Space, and essentially I think it's similar to like Airbnb or whatever. So she does get a booking and she goes to cancel the booking. However, she is sick. She's taking cold medicine and it makes her drowsy, so she's letting it process and she's starting to fall asleep. She gets an email but she doesn't read the email, and so off the bat I'm already like, this whole situation could have been avoided. Because why didn't you read the email? Or why didn't you cancel it as soon as you knew that you weren't going home? And so what I feel like is going to happen is that our male main character is going to come for the booking and they're just going to be stuck together, which I don't know how I feel about that. Like, that just feels very weird. But anywho, our male main character, Canton, is a business owner. He's really successful and he wants to close a deal with a potential client. However, he's basically stalking this man, and that also does not sit right with me. When I get home, actually, hold on, let me pull it up now, because literally, like, the way that he's going about this, I feel like it should be illegal. I feel like he should be arrested, because what the fuck? Okay, so I found the clip because I highlighted it, and it says, after some research, I found out Brighton had a huge Christmas Eve party yearly. The guest list was exclusive, but if I was in the same building, then surely I could crash the party, steal a few minutes of his time to corner Brighton and convince him that my company was not only unfairly left off his list, but we were also the only firm that should have been on the list in the first place. This is stalking. You flew, I don't know where he's from, but he's flying to Atlanta for this. You're purposely staying in the same building as someone else, and then you're planning to crash their party. I'm just having a really hard time with that. Like, I get it, but also it's not like your company is down bad. Like, you don't need this person per se, and I can understand wanting to expand your portfolio and everything, but like, if you weren't on his list of firms to work with and then you fly across the country to hunt him down, like, that just, it's not sitting right with me, so I don't love it. That's as far as I've gotten so far. I'm at the part where they're probably just about to meet. He just arrived at the apartment and she's sleeping, so this isn't gonna go well, but I'm along for the ride, I guess. I am currently 30% into Christmas in Spite of You, and I really dislike Canton. I cannot fucking stand him. Aside from the fact that he is literally stalking this man, he goes to have a conversation with the doorman of the building, and he decides that he's going to buy Noelle a tree because he understands that Christmas is her favorite holiday. She's missing out on being with her family and she doesn't have a tree. So he's talking to Lewis, who is the doorman, who knows Noelle very well. So he's talking about buying a tree, and Lewis is like, well, you know, like, Noelle gets real trees. Like, she doesn't like artificial trees. And Canton is like, oh, do it anyway. Get the biggest, most expensive one you have. So the tree gets delivered, and Noelle is like, what's that? And he's like, it's a tree. I got you a tree. She's like, that's not a tree. And so he starts going through this thing about how she's so ungrateful, and this is why I don't like Christmas. There's no real Christmas spirit, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you were told not to do this. You did it anyway, and now you're mad because she's not, what, thanking you profusely for something that she didn't ask for and didn't want, that you knew she wasn't gonna want. And then Lewis, because he knew that Noelle was not going to want a fake tree, when they sent it up, the guys were like, oh, Lewis called the nearest lot and they said that they'll hold the best tree that they have for you if you can make it there by tonight. And she's like, oh, okay, great, thank you. And he's like, well, why didn't Lewis tell me that in the first place? He did. And he's like, oh, I guess Lewis and I aren't friends after all. This is your own fault. And then she's like, oh, by the way, like, thank you for trying. I do really appreciate it. And he's like, do you? You're in this situation because you can't fucking listen. You were told not to get that girl a fake tree because she doesn't like fake trees. You getting someone something that you know they're not going to like and then being upset that they don't like it, That makes no fucking sense. I cannot stand this man. I really do want to like this book, but I'm kind of struggling with it because I don't like Canton as a character, but also their first interaction, as I predicted, he comes to the apartment, she wakes up to a strange man in her apartment, and he like immediately is like very smug and arrogant and like flirting with her, and I'm just like, this is not cute. This is not sexy. Like, this is not the way that you should be acting right now. And then she's just thinking about how attractive he is and blah blah blah, and I'm just like, this interaction in real life, I don't feel, at least for me, would not be fueled by lust. I don't know, maybe if that scene had been handled a little differently and Canton wasn't stalking this man, then maybe I would feel differently. But right now I'm kind of just along for the ride. Like, I don't hate it. Like, the writing itself is not terrible aside from like the way the dialogue is written, but it's an arc, so that could be totally different when it's published. I actually am kind of intrigued. I care about Noel. I can't really say that I care about Canton at the moment, but I'm hoping that maybe that changes. He's really irking me right now. That's just where I'm at now, but I am traveling this weekend, so I probably won't get much read. When I get back though, I will give y'all an update. I am now 91% into Christmas in Spite of You, and I'm actually having a really good time with it. I didn't love the setup of how they met and under the circumstances, but as a couple, I really like them. I am enjoying their story, them spending time together, them falling for each other. I'm enjoying all of that. Now I'm at a point though where the problem is lack of communication, and I'm just like, it's always this every single time. But I will also say that if you are looking for Christmassy vibes, you're gonna get that in this book. She's watching sappy Christmas movies, they're going shopping for a tree, they're doing holiday shopping, she's making him wear like holiday attire, which he hates, and it's definitely giving those vibes. There isn't necessarily a lot of snow because it's Atlanta, but it is still giving like that very much Christmassy feel that I feel like was missing in Second Chance Christmas. If you're looking for a book that's going to give you the Christmas feels, this one is definitely going to do that. And now we're at a point where it's not even like a third act breakup, but like kinda. It's just a misunderstanding and neither one of them wanting to be the first person to reach out, which I think is fucking stupid. I'll let you know what my rating is when I finish it. I do think that I'm probably gonna give it like a 4. I actually enjoyed it much more than I expected, so that's a plus. Plot twist, gave it a 4.5. I'm just as surprised as you are, I swear. I still am not thrilled about the setup of the book, and while I love forced proximity, I don't like it in a this stranger has to stay in my home with me situation, because that just feels icky. But watching their relationship grow and them getting to know each other, I really enjoyed. I do hate that they literally didn't talk to each other and tell each other their feelings before they separated, but it all worked out in the end. I will say that both this book and the one prior, I feel like there was too much emphasis on the exes. Granted, I did enjoy the scene where Canton runs into Noel's ex because I like the way that he handled it, but I just feel like we're giving too much attention to people who don't matter. That's just how I feel about things in real life, so I get it. We need a little conflict, we need to stir things up. But it did feel like very angsty in the beginning and like a YA romance kind of way, which I was not loving, but overall I really enjoyed it. 4.5. So I'm surprised that I ended up liking that as much. Going into the last book, which I will not read until November, so there will be some time for me, but a few seconds for you. I'm hoping that it's somewhere in the middle, in between what I rated the first 2 books. I feel like I had semi-high expectations with Second Chance Christmas and I was let down, and then I had low expectations with Christmas in Spite of You, and then I ended up enjoying it more. So for this one, I'm just expecting middle of the road, in between those two. I hope that I still like it more than the first one, but I don't think I'm gonna end up liking it more than Christmas in Spite of You. I don't actually know though, because as per usual, I didn't read the synopsis and I'm not going to. But when I start it, I will come back to you and let you know how it's going. It's been some time has passed, but here we are with our final book of this vlog. Now, before I get into that though, I just finished watching Meet Me Next Christmas on Netflix with Christina Milian, and I actually highly recommend it. It's really good. You can figure out what's going to happen, how it's going to end, as you can with most Christmas movies, but it was still worth it. I was not expecting pentatonics to be, I knew it was like a part of the plot, but they're like actually in the movie, which I wasn't expecting. But I like pentatonics. Not that much, but it was still kind of cool. Anyway, you should watch that. So the final book is A Novel Christmas. She is an author, but her most recent releases just have not been as good. And so her publisher demands that she writes a Christmas release. And that is not something that she ever wanted to do, or something she ever planned to do, but she has to do it. And so to get inspiration for this story, she books an Airbnb in a town called Santa Claus, Illinois, or Indiana. Maybe it's Indiana. I don't know, but she's basically like in the middle of nowhere. The population is like 3,000 people. Only 3% of the population is Black, but whatever. So she goes, and I believe our love interest is a local firefighter. He also is the owner of the Airbnb that she's staying in. They haven't met quite yet, but I do think that this is gonna be good. Am I going to like it more than Christmas in Spite of You? I'm not sure, because I really did love the way that that one ended up, but I don't know. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it also gives those Christmassy vibes, but I will let y'all know. All right, so I have finally gotten to the part where our main characters have met and there is instant chemistry and I'm loving it. Our MMC, I wanna say his name is Daryl. That may or may not be correct. He's feeling a little guilt over his attraction because his wife passed from cancer 3 years prior. So if you're not someone who wants to read books that have cancer in them, keep that in mind because it is very prevalent in the story. And even though his wife said to him that she wants him to find love again, he's really having a hard time. This is the first time that he's been attracted to anyone really, and he doesn't know how to feel about it. He feels like he's betraying the love that he had with his wife, even though she wanted him to move on. And so I think we're gonna deal with that a little bit more. Saira is kind of just going with the flow, settling into this weird little town. It is truly big city girl goes to small town and falls in love. It's classic Hallmark Lifetime Christmas movie, whatever you want. And it is really giving those Christmassy feels. Right now they're at an annual winter bonfire, and so she's making friends with other people in the community as well. And so I think that I'm going to like this. I'm excited about that because I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel, but so far so good. So in an interesting turn of event, I've DNF'd A Novel Christmas. I really liked it in the beginning, but things started to go a little downhill, I guess. It was just weird. I don't think I really vibe with the author's writing style, and a lot of the things that I just like, other people will certainly enjoy, so don't think that I'm saying this is a bad book. I'm just saying that this book was not for me, particularly right after the bonfire scene that I was so excited about. There's a part where another woman is like being a little flirty with Dorian, not Daryl. That man's name is Dorian. And the way that Saira handled it was catty and immature, and it was like, we're still doing girl hate in 2024? That's crazy. Because like she gets like super upset about it, starts being a bitch, and then proceeds to like talk shit about this woman behind her back, and was like, well, how does she know that we're not together? And at the time they're not. So it's like, why are you reacting this way? It doesn't make any sense. You're also just being really fucking childish. And then Dorian will also refer to her in a not like other girls way. There were also some comments about like how even though his wife had passed, he did have bedmates, and because he's a man after all. And I'm just like, can we not? Like, the not like other girls thing is annoying. We don't need to be doing girl hate. And like, why are we perpetuating the idea that men will die if they don't have sex? They won't. It's not actually a life necessity. They will be okay. Like, just little things like that that we're starting to build up And then the dialogue I found very cheesy in some situations, which other people will probably enjoy, like I said. However, I also find the sex scenes and some of the dialogue during those scenes to be very fucking cringy. And I just didn't care anymore. I don't care about her romance novel. I don't care about her getting inspiration. I enjoyed the small town vibes and all of that, but it was just like steadily declining, and I thought I could push through, and I decided I'm not going to. So while I personally did not enjoy A Novel Christmas, I still would recommend it to others. I think that other people can still get something out of it, especially if you really want those small town Christmassy vibes. You're going to get that from this one. I absolutely recommend Christmas in Spite of You, even though I do warn everyone that the beginning is a little shaky. I could not stand that man at the beginning, but by the end, absolutely loved it. And then for A Second Chance Christmas, I do recommend it. However, I didn't like how much emphasis there was on past relationships. I didn't feel like it was necessary. Otherwise, I do think it is a very good example of a second chance romance. Let me know if you've read any of these or if they're on your TBR. If you have recommendations for other Black Christmas romances, definitely leave those for me. Otherwise, that is all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.